Hey everyone, welcome back to Edible Gardening Channel. This is Patrick, Marla. We have your top 10 questions that have been asked through Instagram. We just compiled them on our phone and we're going to answer all of them as much as we can in regards to our plans for our garden this year. So the first question, what are our plans for the garden this year? I did post on Instagram that we're doing a couple changes,
Yeah, so this year we're going to be expanding the gardens even more. We're going to be adding more raised beds because we live in a very wet area. We found that it gets very wet in some parts of the garden.
Yeah.
So the plan is to raise everything up and have a little bit less water in the beds. Also, just adding mulch, raising up the paths, expanding the greenhouse maybe a little bit, or actually making it better in there to grow. Um, yeah. Definitely propagating out a lot of my berry bushes. I have so many berries right now. I have the black currants. Probably from the ones I have now, I can probably make several hundred cuttings, so several hundred more plants. Really the same thing we're doing every year, but on a little bit larger scale this year.
We also we've been trying to grow potato, stuff that grow in the ground: potato, radish, beet, carrots, and we have really bad clay. And even though Patrick has worked on the soil so much and has made it really good, we still find they're not growing well. So in our raised beds this year, I think we're doing a lot of sand that we're going to mix with our soil. Hopefully that sandy soil will be easier for the roots to kind of grow. But another thing that we're doing, aside from just doing the raised beds, we're really pivoting. I love that word. We're pivoting what we're growing because the past couple of years, we tend to grow like a lot of things that we actually just don't eat. Some weird squashes or like a ton of kale, and then nobody eats kale except me. So what we want to do this year is really have minimal waste. So, I mean, we don't waste much because we compost everything, but yeah, we're going to do more. We'll get into that in one of the next questions, but we're going to do more specific plants so that we're able to have something more specific that we're looking for. And we're also doing a lot of hoping to do a lot of canning and fermenting, and we'll get into that as well. And so we're planting things that are specific, that can be pickled easily, and that kind of stuff. Okay, second question. Are you ordering any seeds this year?
Yeah, so this year I order seeds every year. But I don't need to because I have so many saved. But what I'm doing is just expanding the different varieties. So instead of having one type of tomato or one type of cucumber, I have 10 or 20 different types. So I'm always buying things that because I save seeds from things that I can. A lot of things are like biennials or whatever, and it's a little bit tougher to save them, like carrots, for example. So instead of saving those and taking up the room in the garden for 2 years, I'll purchase those on a yearly basis.
We've also had a couple crops that didn't do well, so there weren't many seeds to save. Like our corn, we actually planted out last year, and the one variety just didn't pop up. So we purchased, obviously, seeds for that because we didn't have much. But we did put a pretty good seed order together. The kids ordered some stuff as well. So we will do a seed haul, just going over where we ordered our seeds from and what we're picking this year. But majority of what we're planting out is seeds that Patrick has saved over the years. Have you started planting anything yet?
Yeah, so my peppers I started already, and those are like the super hot peppers, the like scorpions, and those kind of peppers usually take a long time to ripen. So a regular jalapeno might be 60 to 80 days. These ones could be months and months. So last year I planted them in the first week of March, and by November, October, they still weren't ripe. So I started those already so that I have the full season for them. And as the peppers come in, I'll be starting those. Maybe onions will be starting pretty soon.
What about tomatoes, and when does that go?
Yeah, tomatoes I'll probably start in end of February, early March. That's pretty good for this area we're in, the season, so they're ready to be transplanted after a few weeks after the frost there. And so yeah, that's when I usually start those.
Yeah, our house gets really really full of plants for always. It's like March, end of February, and throughout March we just have so many plants because he always starts them, and then obviously they're growing for about a month before we can plant them outside. So there's always a month there where our house is full of of plants, but then it makes it quicker when we put them out in the garden. You can plant from seed, right? But it just takes a lot longer.
Well, some things
harvest.
we can't plant from seed in this area just because of a shorter seed like season. Or I think we're in zone 6A, 6B. So we have to be careful for the frost there.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess the next question we kind of answered, but when do you put plants in the ground?
Yes,
So what about greenhouse? Like, when do you start putting our plants? Because we do have a greenhouse.
So for example, if I start the seeds for lettuce in the house, then I can just take those plugs and put them in the greenhouse. Probably end of February. If I put that's another thing I plan on doing is a little cold frame in there. So inside of the greenhouse, having another little structure. So then I have save another month, so I can start those probably in a few weeks actually.
Yeah, it's an exciting time of year because we know that like spring's coming and we can finally start planting out. It's really fun. Are we fully self-sufficient with produce in the summer?
Yeah, no, we're definitely not. Like the family's growing. I feel like my garden's growing, and every year the kids eat more and more. So, but I guess that's the goal in the end. This year I'm going to be producing significantly more than last year, and last year was a lot more than the previous year. So. Yeah. I'm sure one day I'll catch up and have just too much. I mean, with garlic, we're self-sufficient in a few things. Like garlic, for example, we have quite a bit of that every year. Tomatoes, almost all year because now we're canning them, right? And zucchini. So in some things we are self-sufficient in, but if we want everything, well, that's still a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah. When we first moved into this house, like we said, the soil was pure clay. So it did take us a couple years. And by us, I mean Patrick. It took us a couple of years to just get the soil plantable. So that's why we weren't able to just start off with a big garden. We had to make the soil better. And because it's really good now, we're able to expand. But like we said earlier, we tend to plant like a ton of kale, which takes up a lot of space and then nobody really eats it. So this year we're just going to plant smarter. I know I go to the store and I'm buying tons of cucumber, tons of tomato, lettuce. So the things that we're eating all the time is what we're going to be focusing on planting this year. But even though we're not fully self-sufficient, like Patrick said, we are, like last summer, I didn't buy any garlic, any tomato, no cucumbers. I don't think I bought lettuce. So mainly the only things we did buy were the stuff that didn't do well, which were potatoes, carrots, the in-ground root vegetables because
we also had mice last year. Mice were eating our carrots underground, so that we had some nice carrots, but we also had some issues with some of them. So
yeah, we had lots of asparagus and things. So I think this year we did plant broccoli, which didn't do well. We planted Brussels sprouts, though I don't think those came up much.
Yeah, those were planted too late as well. So by the time they were ready, the frost was already there.
But yeah, so once we're going to plant smarter, hopefully the raised beds will help the root vegetables. And I honestly think this year we won't have to buy at least any vegetables. We don't get a lot of fruit. We do get quite a bit of berries, but we don't have apples and things. So I do buy fruit. And then I do buy obviously like all of our meat and our oils and our seeds, grains, because we don't have enough space to plant grains and things like that. But for produce, we are pretty good. And we always have extra that we fill our freezers. We did a lot of tomato sauce last year, relishes, pickled beets. So we always do have a lot of extra as well, which is great. We did answer this one, I guess. Are we expanding the garden this year?
Yeah, so we're probably going to, double?
I think so.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot bigger just because we need it, right? We have the room, might as well use it.
Yeah, the kids thankfully my kids love their vegetables, but they eat a lot, and sometimes they'll go out to the garden in the morning while we're still getting ready, and they'll just pick cucumbers, tomatoes. They eat a lot, and we go out in the morning and there's not much to harvest because they ate like half of it. So we are doing a garden for the kids, and we're gonna be like, that's your garden, so go nuts. But we're also gonna plant extra to allow for that. Question 7: Are hybrid seeds GMO?
So they can be, but they don't have to be. So hybrids just two of the same species crossing, so 2 different types of tomatoes, 2 different types of cucumbers. But if one of those is a GMO crop. For example, the corn is a good example. Like you can have an organic farmer on one field and a GMO farmer on the other field. When the pollen from the GMO crop pollinates with the organic one, well, now you have a GMO organic hybrid. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be, but usually the seed suppliers, if you're buying, they're very open with what they have, and it just says organic or hybrid, and they really tell you non-GMO, or they try not to have GMO or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to tell. With corn, it's pretty easy to tell because you'll see the difference in the first year. So right away, the kernels of the corn are going to be different, and you'll know that something's happened there. But
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's also hard to know because you really only way you'll find out is if you do some kind of, I don't know, genetic testing on it. It's really like you can't really tell the difference between genetically
no.
modified tomato and
Unless
maybe
it's
not.
super perfect, maybe.
Yeah, but even then there's hybrids that
Yeah.
look perfect and they're just hybrid, right? They're not. Nothing's been done to them, so.
We do only plant organic things, but with that we will use hybrid. So hybrid organic, you get a lot of cool varieties. In the beginning I was kind of like, no, we don't want hybrid because I thought it just meant GMO, but after realizing it doesn't, there's a lot of cool varieties just by crossing, two of the same plant or species. So we do order some.
And also hybrid does help with production, right? Some hybrids are way more productive than the heirloom, for example, and also disease resistance, right? You want, if you're in an area and you get a lot of viruses or pests or whatever, there are varieties grown just for that specific region or whatever, so sometimes you do need to grow those to have a good crop.
Do you sell our seeds that you harvest each year?
Yeah, last year I did a little bit, just like on eBay or whatever, just because I had so much of one and I know that there's no way I'll ever plant it, and if I don't get rid of them or sell them, those seeds will go to waste. But also I do exchange them. There's like on Reddit or other places, there's seed exchanges or the Canadian seed of Seeds of Diversity. So seed banks and stuff, I'll just donate whatever I don't need. So
yeah, we do. We have a lot of seeds, and we give a lot to family as well. So almost every year, like our family will come to him and say, I want this, this, and that. So he's always like sharing seeds with everybody. But he did sell a little bit. Do we sell at markets?
No, we don't. Yeah, we sell the plants sometimes, but no, not really.
We've talked about it. We just don't ever have it that much extra.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's we're always eating what we have and we're supplying ourselves. So I mean, we're saving money that way, so we don't really need to bring an income in. So no point of going through the hassle, I guess.
Yeah, and this year we've been feeling the like at least where we live, we've been feeling the inflation a lot on produce at the stores. So our goal this year is, because we're growing our garden quite a bit, we want to have a lot extra to, like I said, pickle, ferment, preserve, whether it's canning or whatever else, and have that to last us throughout the fall and winter when we're not planting. So I don't think we'll probably sell at market again. I think we're just going to keep it, give obviously to family, for us, and then whatever's left we're going to preserve, freeze, so we have it for ourselves, just to save money, because it's not cheap feeding a family that eats a lot of veggies. Okay, the last question I thought was really cute. Are we worried our chickens will eat our plants that we have in the garden? Because we do have free-ranging chickens.
Yeah, so the first year we had them, I wasn't sure what they're going to do. So I kind of had to let them loose in the garden and hope for the best. But just watching them and just we let them roam. They don't really go for the plants. They go more for the bugs in the soil, because the soil is really rich right now and full of compost and everything, that there's worms everywhere. Every time they scratch, there's a worm. Yeah. So they really don't care about the plants when there's worms. But in the greenhouse, for example, I had parsley, carrots, I had a whole bunch of things, and kale to overwinter. And because the ground was frozen, they went after all the plants. So I think the chickens, for at least the ones we have, they don't really care for the veggies if there's something else to eat. But when there's nothing to scratch or any bugs to pull out of the ground, they'll go after the plants, which is okay because I plant extra. Mm-hmm. And then we'll feed them like the tomatoes or whatever, the extra things that are greens or whatever that aren't perfect for us to eat, but they love it because it's not only because there's the greens, but there's also caterpillars or something on them. Yeah. So it's like a double double meal for them.
They were so cute. I think they were very respectful of our garden. We let them free range and they would go through all of our plants, and they really didn't touch anything. Like Patrick said, a lot of the things that we grow, most of the things we grow are growing upwards too, whether it's on like a trellis or something, and they all couldn't reach it too well either. But yeah, we have a whole backyard of grass, so they loved the grass. They loved dandelions, and we had tons of dandelion all over the grass, so that's kind of what they went for, and really didn't touch the gardens. We had a really bad storm in the early start of the winter, so we had to move our chickens into the greenhouse because their house collapsed. And Patrick did have some plants that were still growing in there, and so of course they ate that because there was nothing else to pick at. But yeah, they were really good, and we also do give them like their chicken feed and stuff, so they're like, they eat a lot. They're not that hungry to go after our stuff, but they did really love tomato.
Yeah.
And we had tons falling off the bushes, like he said, with worms or something that we wouldn't eat. We would just pass it to them and they would go nuts. So it's been really good, and they've been helping till up the garden a lot. So yeah. But
also, I guess one thing the chickens did do was they like digging like really big holes in the garden.
that was annoying.
So sometimes they would actually dig around a plant, and
Yeah.
all the roots would be exposed. So then it wasn't a huge problem. We just had to go back and
rebury.
Yeah, just cover up the holes they dug, but
Yeah.
or they do that around the bushes where the grapes are, and they expose all the roots. And it's like
They dig pretty deep. Yeah.
they just want to take a dust path right underneath the bush. So
Yeah.
that's all right though. Overall, it was okay.
Yeah, it's actually we had them for 2 years, but like last summer was our full season with them, and it went really well. So we're excited to let him free range again when there's no more snow, and they've been really tilling up his greenhouse for him. So that's going to be nice to plant out. But yeah, anything else?
No, I think that was pretty much
That was
it,
all
yeah.
the 10 questions, 10 most asked questions. So we are doing a seed haul soon, which we'll post when those arrive. But if you guys have any other questions for Patrick, especially since he's the expert here, put them down in the comments below. And we hope you guys have an awesome day. Bye.